For those of us who didn't grow up with a love of nature, the idea of nature study sounds like a wonderful thing, something we want to give our children. But we might find ourselves at a loss once we step outside that front door. Or, well, we might have all those nature journals in tow with us, but when our children's faces just turn expectantly toward us, what do we say? What do we do? Well, let's get specific. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonya Schaefer. Joining me today is my friend Amber O'Neal Johnston, who is a self-avowed lover of air conditioning when she grew up, right?
Yes, that is totally me. I would say this is one of the most intimidating parts of a Charlotte Mason education for me, was this idea of intentionally going outside and staying there.
I grew up in the country, and we spent a lot of time outside, but it wasn't studying nature. It wasn't like, I mean, I could recognize the red-winged blackbird because they were all over the place, but it wasn't like I knew all of the birds and all of the flowers and all of the weeds, and we didn't look at it that way. It was just we were out there playing.
Yeah, well, for me, it wasn't even that, right? So my time outside was spent from the car to the building, from the building to the car, and outside was kind of, in my family culture, it was something to be avoided. And so this idea that I would spend time outside, that's layer one, and then actually study the things that I see out there was a whole nother layer. And I wanted that desperately for my kids, but I think a lot of times in this community, we can tend to assume that people are starting from a certain place. And I think it's great for someone to acknowledge, and I'll be the first, that I started from zero, not knowing anything. And I remember someone suggesting, why don't you guys just go on a short hike? And I was like, where do you do that? And she was like, just go to the trailhead and walk, and then you guys can meander. I was like, where is a trailhead? And I mean,
I'm looking for a sign.
Yes, point me in the direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need you to talk to me as if you can't even imagine that I don't know anything. I know how to go to the playground and the park. It was boring. My kids weren't, after they were 2 or 3, they were tired of that, looking for expansion. And one of the best things I did was join a nature group. And I did that because I had no idea what else to do. But the mom that was in charge of that, she was a Charlotte Mason mom, and she led us so well. And she became a mentor without even knowing it. I was watching her, listening to what she said and how they did things. And I was like, this isn't half bad. This is actually not difficult. I think I'm having fun. I'm not sure yet, but that was kind of our entry point into this.
So what were some of the key things that you learned from this mentor? I'm assuming it was, that you don't have to be the fountainhead of all knowledge when you're out there, because some of us just aren't.
Right.
And we can't fool our kids into thinking, oh, yeah, we know all about this, when we have no clue.
Yes. So I think she was really good at allowing the children to kind of lead the exploration. She actually did know a lot about nature, but you wouldn't necessarily know it being out there with us. So she wasn't walking around giving lessons like, this is this, and let me show you this, kids, and this is that. But we were kind of meandering a little bit, and she might, point towards something interesting or say, what do you think you might find over here, kids? And they would go and explore and come up with something, and they would ask questions, and she would say, well, what do you think about that? Or how do you think we could find out? And sometimes she would give the answer. She would say like, oh, I grew up with a tree like that in my yard, and I know that that's a such and such. And I thought that was great because it was natural. It allowed the kids to come up with some of their own learning and understanding and asking questions, even though I knew that she knew the answer to everything that they asked. So that was one key takeaway. Also, we brought our nature journals with us. And it seemed so natural to kind of sit down and, instead of creating an art project, which is what I had seen from the nature journals I looked at, to me as someone who is not an artist.
Well, if you look at that country diary of an Edwardian lady, it's like, why even try?
Yes, that's like, forget it, I'm never going to get there. But she instead, she told the kids, oh, we want to make sure that we are noting this, and noticing and remembering. And she said it's almost like taking notes in picture form. That opened my eyes so much. Taking notes in picture form. I can do that. I can investigate and explore something and make note of it. And so she led the kids through that. And nobody was like, oh, mine doesn't look good. Mine's ugly. Because she's like, we're not out here to become world famous artists. We're naturalists and we're taking notes for what we're exploring. And so these types of things I learned along the way, and they helped each time we would go out there. My anxiety would go down more and more and more. And I felt like, okay, I can do this. And then it just took repetition. It took time and time and time again of going out there. And every time I went outside with my kids, I felt more and more confident. And eventually I found myself actually like knowing the name of that flower. I used to just be like blue flower, red flower, pink flower. And so I actually do know the name of that flower, but it was because we really loved it. And then we went home and talked about it and we looked it up. And now every time we had a relationship with that flower.
Yes.
And so we would see it, it would come up. I still didn't know the names of the other ones, but little by little. And I noticed that we got to know our area very well. But even now, when I take the kids and we have an opportunity in another locale to get outside, we're back at ground zero. We don't know these trees. We don't know these plants. We don't know this pathway or this topography. And it's something to start over and learn anew. But I think it's been revolutionary for me because I got to see how you really could start from nothing and work your way up to really feeling like you kind of have a grasp on things in an enjoyable way.
So what attitudes did you have to pay attention to in yourself in order to make that transition?
I think talking myself out of feeling inadequate and feeling like I had to have an answer for everything my kids asked me because I really didn't know anything that, Mom, what kind of tree is this? I'm like, a big one, So I would just say, I don't know, but let's see. I know if we pay attention to the bark and we look at the type of leaves and I know where, we know where we are. We're kind of in this area of Georgia. Let's make notes in our nature journal and, we can go home and we can look it up. And then we started bringing our Georgia field guides with us and we were able to kind of identify stuff out in the wild, but it wasn't always about identification either. Sometimes we were just observing. We weren't trying to necessarily name something or figure out all the things about it, but we were observing. And especially when we returned to the same places, like our favorite places in different seasons. And so the kids are like, where's the water? And I'm like, the creek bed's dry. I didn't know it was going to do that, And so there we have, we're noting down during these months, the creek bed is dry. There's no water running, and we know there was water in there last time. So I think that it became a lot more natural when I let go of the feelings of inadequacy, especially comparing myself to other Charlotte Mason moms who seemed like they had Comstock's book memorized.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm here with my kids, and that's all I have to offer today.
Yes. I know Charlotte talks about being curious along with your children, that attitude of curiosity and an openness to learn alongside them can be a huge thing in that area as well.
I think that's great advice in every area, not just nature study, but in all of the things that we do. And I think it's good for our kids to see that what I can give my kids is enthusiasm and interest, that I can show them that I'm curious, but I cannot always give them knowledge that I don't have. I don't know the answer to all the questions, and they have a lot of questions. But I can come alongside them and we can talk about it, see what we can figure out, get their ideas. We can go find experts in areas and how to find answers and all of those things. And I think that that's part of learning and growing together. That's part of homeschooling for us, home education. It's that we're doing this together and we're exploring ideas, not necessarily that I know everything and I'm going to, tell them all the answers.
Which is the opposite of a Charlotte Mason education anyway. One thing that has stood out to me in our whole conversation here, even starting with your mentor and her approach to this tree, is she talked about her relationship with the tree. Oh yeah, I had that in my yard when I was growing up. Right. And it was all based on an idea and a relationship. And then the facts came after that.
Yeah.
It's just like we've talked before about ideas and how the idea takes the precedent. So when you're out there in nature study, especially if you feel inadequate, a lot of times that's baggage from the way we were educated, if you want to use that term, with the emphasis on knowing facts.
Yes.
And when you feel inadequate, a lot of times that old baggage can come back with you. And so when we're out in nature, it's like, well, I don't know what facts to tell my child about this particular nature friend.
Right.
And we let that stop us instead of coming at it from an idea standpoint. What ideas can we grasp about this? How does it speak to our imagination? What does it remind us of? What does it make us think of? And then using those ideas to motivate us to learn more. Charlotte talked about wondering with our children, to wonder about things, look at them and wonder. So I wonder if that whole sense of inadequacy stems somewhat from focusing on the facts
Right.
versus the ideas and the relationships.
Well, I think definitely, right? And we tend to see other people, and it seems like they know a lot of facts. And so the inadequacy if you don't know a lot of facts, but what we're missing is the story behind it, how they arrived there. And so I think now they're all these years later where someone could be with me and think Amber knows a lot of facts about the trees and the flora and fauna in her area. And I would laugh at that. But also I would say I didn't sit there and just memorize it. I didn't go to a class to do this, but it came through our repeated exposure to the same things and our curiosity of finding this out or drawing this and then wondering what is it that we've drawn. And I think that it's very powerful, and it has moved over outside of our lessons into other aspects of our family life. So we become campers. We go camping. That's something I never did growing up. And we have, I don't even remember what they're called, boards. The boards the kids stand on and paddle out in the lake when we go up to the lake. And
Okay.
I don't know why I can't think of the
Paddle
name.
boards.
Paddle boards.
Yeah.
Okay, great. There you go. Paddle boards.
We'll
You can
use
see
that
I'm still
term. It might not be
struggling.
the
Yes.
right one, but we'll use it. Yeah.
And, out in the canoe, and we have the rafts. And so these ideas of our family just recreating outside has also been informed by our lessons and the time we spent in nature, because the more we were there, the more comfortable we felt, and it was kind of drawing us in. We have a greater desire to want to be outside, whether it's formal study or just relaxation, enjoyment. So it's done a lot for our family beyond just the lesson that we may have initially started with.
About a year and a couple of months ago, we got a bird feeder that sticks on the window. And so we put it right there at our dining room window, and we have woods back behind that. And filled it up with peanuts and sunflower seeds and said, okay, let's see what happens. First 2 weeks, nothing happened. Okay. Nothing at all. But then one by one, these little critters started coming with little wings and little beaks. And it's like, it's a bird. And like you said with the flowers, it's a black.
Bird.
Well, this one is red. And, we knew a few of them. But over time, and I'm hearing this with you too, your experience, that it's not suddenly the light comes on and we know it all. It is just little touches, consistent touches. Over time, you start to form these relations. And as we watched these birds, ideas would come to us like, it wasn't so much, I need to know this bird's name, as this one acts like this. I'm curious. Well, let's find out what his name is and, if he's going to be around for a while. I haven't seen this one. Where do you think it might have gone? So then that started driving us to the bird guide, the field guide, to find out the names of these. Well, I never thought much about it. It was just a hobby. We do this every time we eat a meal. We watch the birds. And we watch them push each other off, and we watch the nuthatches who will pick up the seed and then flick it over the side onto the ground. It's like, why do they always do that? And the other ones the chickadees will just take it and fly up to branch up above and then hold it with their little feet and peck at it with their mouths, with their beaks. See, I'm using all these technical terms,
Yes.
but it's the idea,
Right,
you know?
right.
So fast forward a couple of months ago, after we'd been doing this for about a year, I found out that another musician in our church loves birds. He is a birder, if you want to call it that. And so we started talking about it, and he said, well, what birds have you seen on your feeder? And I started to name them, and I kept naming them, and I kept naming them, and I kept naming them, and his eyes were getting bigger and bigger, and he's like, that's a lot of birds, and you know the names to all of those. And I was just as dumbfounded as he.
Yeah.
It was
How did I know that?
Yeah, it just built up over time.
Yes.
But it was all based on that relationship and the ideas of getting to know these nature friends. I didn't set out to memorize all of these bird names.
Right.
And even their calls. We're starting to get familiar with those too.
Yes.
So I was sitting at breakfast this morning and looked out, and there was a phoebe on one of the feeders. And we've been watching for those phoebes and so excited about them when we see them. So I have to remember to tell my youngest, I saw a phoebe this morning, because she'll want to know. And she keeps track of which dates we see them.
And I think that's what I see with the kids, the enthusiasm of wanting to know.
Yes.
And I think that is kind of part of the point, to be out in creation and to want to know, to wonder, as you said, about the things that you see, to be curious, and there's a certain amount of delight. You know, my kids said we have deer that come at dawn and dusk every day. They pass right through our yard, and every single day. And the kids are like, Mom, why every single day you act like you've never seen it before? And I said, because there's just something that's still exciting. It's exciting. I still feel that little flutter inside when I see them. And the whole family gathers, and I'm thinking, you're talking about me, but you're over here too. So we just stand there and watch them and go back and forth. And I think that it does, awaken something and gives you the idea that you want to know more about this creature, or you want to learn about their world in the same way we are, sometimes do with people. So plants and animals can bring up that curiosity as well. So I think for me, the biggest thing is for moms to walk away knowing that today is not forever. And even if you're starting at 0 or like -10, like me, that it's not a race and there's no number to get to, right? It's the type of thing we're just always going to grow in the directions that we choose to go. And over time, and your kids are fine. Your kids are fine going out with someone who knows nothing. And that they will still get, what was meant for them in those times.
And we'll be setting up a lifelong enjoyment for them too.
Absolutely.
Because even as we continue on in that direction, they will be able to continue on and learn more for themselves.
Which is a gift, right? Even beyond your lessons, it's just a life gift.
Yes, that's great. Thanks. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.